everyone, welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly, Cata Mejía. With us today is Talia Castro-Pozo. She is a performer and cultural events producer. Bienvenida, welcome,
Muchas gracias.
How are you?
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be finally here with you.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Likewise.
As I was briefly telling you off camera, I've been following your work for years. I'm pretty sure your events were some of the first that I attended since moving here in New York.
Love it.
Con todo lo que tiene que ver con salsa. So I'm very excited to have
That's
some
so
one-on-one
great.
on
So
time
wonderful
with
to
you.
connect.
I would love to know where your passion for dance started. I know that you have Peruvian roots, so let's talk about that.
Yes, I started very young. At the age of 3, I was already passionate about dancing. I was a ballerina very young at 14. I turned professional, dancing with the National Ballet from Lima. And I knew it was going to be my path. I just love to dance. I love to perform. My parents were in the theater business. So, of course, my natural evolution was to get into theater and acting myself. And, you know, coming here to New York to study, you have to really learn how to do everything. You have to learn how to do the whole business. You got to learn how to survive teaching. You have to really invest in yourself. So going into acting school was an important choice for my career because in the late 90s is really when the Latinos begin to be seen commercially speaking. So we start to do a lot of TV bilingual. So I was shooting commercials in Spanish and in English, voiceover, Spanish, English, print work. So I was pretty much living off commercial work while learning how to run dance studios and producing events and going to acting school. So I really wanted to do it all and be the best I could be at the performing arts. And, you know, I think leaving my options open to whatever I could do I could learn about the business of entertainment.
So you started dancing at a young age. Did you always know, maybe because of the influence of your parents being in musical theater, that you wanted to go that route? Or did at any point, as the years went by, did you want to explore other things?
I wanted to perform. That was my main motivation. I love classical ballet, but you know, the life of a ballet dancer is very rough. I was anorexic, I had injuries, so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make it as a ballerina. It's so competitive here, also in New York. You have the best from all over the world. So I knew that I had to really expand to other forms of dancing. And Latin dancing became really popular, and I really fell in love with it. You know, it was a really great way to connect with my roots and accept the fact that even though I wanted to be a citizen of the world, I was a Latina in New York, in the boom of the Latinos in New York City, and really, like I said, expanding to other, you know, realms of performing arts. So I had to embrace it.
How did you come to New York? Like, what brought you? Was it studying? Was it trying to make it in the big city that
I was lucky. My mom had family here, so I could stay with them in Westchester while studying in the city, taking the train and helping them out at their cafe in the morning. So I was working and I was commuting to the city. So I was lucky enough that, you know, I got a recommendation letter to take free classes. I got accepted into School of American Ballet. So I really worked hard to be here because I had a job waiting for me in Lima. You know, and I was supposed to go back, but I didn't really want to go back anymore. Like the level, once you see the best of the world in New York, you really don't want to go back. Especially back then, I feel like Lima, Peru was really starting to have a dance scene. It was like the beginning. And it has progressed so much since, but it was really a very different time.
Yeah, and it doesn't take away from the fact that it may also always be home, pero aprovechar de la oportunidad que trae esta ciudad también.
Por supuesto, sobre todo lo que uno ha hecho profesionalmente. As a professional, also, you come in not just as a student, but you have a different mindset because you've already experienced, and I had already performed so many roles and had done so much that I felt it was a great opportunity to continue to grow here.
Do you have a favorite form of dance to teach versus to actually do yourself? And why is that your favorite?
They change all the time because, you know, after this summer, I'm going to have enough salsa for a while. Like so many salsa events, right? So at home, I try not to listen to it because I want to keep it fresh. I love jazz. I love classical music. I like all types of music. And when it comes to dancing, I also feel, and I'm going to be doing a tango play, which I'm so excited because I haven't done tango in so long. But it's another dance that I think it was the first partner dance that I learned when I came to New York to work. So I'm super excited to go back to the roots of tango dancing and to perform again as an actress and to be able to do other styles because I love them all. And really, like I said, you kind of fall in and out of love with them.
What about being a performer is special to you? What do you feel when you're in front of an audience? What do you strive to make them feel whenever they're watching you?
Yeah, being a performer is a funny thing because you always feel the need of making people happy. And I am a natural, socializing. I love to socialize with people. So this makes me very happy to share, to talk. I'm so old school. Since very young age, I always wanted to be in the room with older people.
Me too.
Talk to them, dance with them, entertain them. So that's in my blood, obviously, right? So I think that when you are an entertainer, you definitely want to make sure everybody's having a good time, that everything is great, that people are really coming out of their shell because you want to also help them feel comfortable. And sometimes they don't even know what it is to feel that happiness and that, to feel the music, to dance. Really, it's an interesting thing. I find that people that learn how to enjoy it really become much happier, and they almost explore like a different side of them that they never knew they had. So I love that. I think that's just incredible to be able to open that portal out for people.
Absolutely. I'm most familiar with your work within the salsa socials, across Bryant Park and Pier 76 and Midtown, all over the city. And one of the things that I love about every single one of your events, Sin Falla Literal, is you see people who know how to dance, people who don't know how to dance, people who come with friends or come alone. It's really all across the board.
Yes.
And the common thread is this desire to just let loose or watch others let loose when the music
Yes,
comes
and that's
on.
the big difference between being a professional dancer. You are in such a bubble, with other professional dancers. And I think Latin dancing and these events really have allowed me to cross the border, right? And be with them, be with everybody. You're not longer just the performer, the elitist, but you're there with the people. And you get to know their stories. You get to find, friends in this huge community that New York City is. We're such a melting pot from people from all over the world. And I think what has been the most inspiring for me as someone who's also is progressing into my production company is to be able to create community with a multi-generational group of people, all ages, all statuses, all, nationalities, all colors, doesn't matter. It's just about really coming together to enjoy the music and the dance.
Yeah. You alluded to the world of being a professional ballerina being so difficult. I think, and I've also heard from other professional dancers, that dance in general is pretty cutthroat. So talk a little bit about your experience there and how you've navigated that in the past.
Well, ballet dancers really have a bad reputation for being ultra competitive and not having friends in the business. It's very hard. I think for me being so young, getting into the company at 14 and having had some girlfriends, it was a very different world. But yes, definitely in Latin America, I think it's a little bit more, what's the word? And again, it's because we're a country and we're a continent in development. I feel like it was very different when I came to the United States, specifically to New York. I didn't feel like anybody was watching me. Everybody was so busy doing their own thing that allowed me to stay focused and out of that. There was no gossipy, no this, no that, jealousy. There's no time for that. You have to really come here and work. You have no time for the little nothing.
Yeah. And also because, speaking to what you were saying earlier, there may also be this sense of the scarcity mindset, in the industry as a whole. No todo el mundo lo puede, o sea, como que puede ser profesional. And so because people recognize that there are so few positions, that leads to competitiveness or that toxic behavior that you were talking about. I also know that you're multifaceted, so you don't just dance, but you do so many other things. Tell us about that. I know you've dabbled in TV, beyond just commercials. Tell me more.
Thank you. Yes, as an actress, I've done a lot of commercials, TV, shows, some theater. I'm going back to theater, which is very exciting. As a performer, what else? Voiceover work. I used to do a lot of bilingual. After having kids, or while having kids, I had to take a little break. But I am definitely, coming out again now that my kids are a little older. And it's a different time, you know. It's also a different time for me as an actress because I'm not going to be playing, you know, the same roles that I was playing before being a mom. So it's also a transition as an artist, you know, and a constant reinvention of how to find the things that move you now are not the same, you know, are not as exciting as they were before, and vice versa. So you keep changing, evolving. So right now I am enjoying also growing as a producer and training other people and helping other artists, you know, further their careers. I think putting together these events and curating, you know, dancers and DJs and bands and all of that is really empowering because you get to try to be, you know, give everybody an opportunity. You see that the young people want to be out there, so you have to give them a chance. You have to also bring more women into the business because this is such a male-dominated business that I find that it's really hard to, you know, find great women to play and to sing and to be a part of the salsa scene. So that's been very, very exciting. So I keep finding these ways to continue to reinvent myself, really.
I want to circle back to the giving opportunities to younger artists in a moment, but let's talk about the evolution and the parallels between how you reinvent yourself, as you just said, as an artist, and how that's impacted by your personal life. You know, you very clearly mentioned, you know, there's a before you were a mom, then there's an after. So talk a little bit more about that and how that impacts your artistry specifically.
My personal life?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's a huge, it's definitely a huge change. You know, I'm a mom now. I have a family to take care of. So it's really, I think for any mom, I think it's very hard to balance their careers and their family, their kids, their husbands. So it's definitely very intense. I am lucky that I had a husband, or I have a husband that really wanted me to continue working and also wanted to have a family, because I can imagine those single moms out there, how do they do it? Yeah. You know, you really need a village. You need the babysitter. You need, here we don't have the luxury of, like in Latin America, you have the la tía, la abuelita, la señora que viene a ayudarte. O sea, you have a whole village. Here is very different. So it's been really challenging to get great help. But at the same time, you find a way to really, you know, take a vacation, spend time with your kids, work, right? Say no to a lot of work. I do have to say no to a lot of things because I need to spend time with my kids. So you become more selective. And I think that's something that is also, you know, if you're willing to balance and really to enjoy that precious time that it will never come back with your little kids and your career, and continue to really keep an eye on the things that you want, you can try to manage.
Of course, yeah, and that's on time management for sure. But in terms of the roles that you're now interested in, or how you approach the work itself, how would you say being a mom or progressing as an individual has impacted your interest, or how you portray those different roles, for example?
Yes, the evolution, I think, comes from you're not able, I mean, I'm not able to be at all of my events. I am not able to take all the roles. I am not able to audition as much as I used to. Back in the day, I had 2 agents, a manager. I was really busy. Now, well, I mean, only my female manager took me back after I took a break to begin with, right? So the business was already, you know, it doesn't make it easy for moms. Right? So having that has also been helpful because my manager, who's a female, she knows that I'm busy. So she's only giving me the auditions, a much more limited pool of auditions that she knows I may be right for. And that is a huge help.
Yes.
So thank you to my manager.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, shout out to Ingrid French for that. And definitely, again, having that, I think it's maturity, you know, because a lot of artists run from a lot of ego. Yes, and that's natural because we are egocentrical. We love ourselves. We like to look in the mirror. We want to feel beautiful. We want to put the makeup on. I mean, you know, these things are important for us. That's how we thrive. But really, those days that you're in your pajamas and you're at home with your kids, I mean, those are really important days and really fuels you. And I think it also helps you to, you know, smell the roses and things that you before didn't even consider. I went camping last weekend for the first time. It was like a real camping with my kids, and it was so I mean, it was so different, and I was so scared because that's
Yeah.
not my nature at all. But I accepted it. My kids loved it. We did it, and here we are.
that. Love
On to the
that.
next vacation.
When selecting a role or when taking on an event across all of the things that you do and all the hats that you wear, what is the common thread across them all, that the elements maybe that it has to have for you to be like, yeah, like this aligns with what I'm looking for across the board?
Yes, that's very interesting. It's a great question because I told my agent, I said, I don't want to play. Please, I'm tired of playing nannies. I'm tired of playing, working class Latinas. Like, can I really get a doctor, audition? And can I be a professional? Because Latinas can also portray.
Oh
And
my gosh,
unfortunately, in
amen,
TV,
amen.
we're still very backwards when it comes to that. So it's been a challenge, and we're getting there. But absolutely, there is a lot of things that I say no because you have to prioritize things like that. You prioritize, a lot of music videos and things that may be portraying women the way you don't want to be portrayed. You don't want to be playing, the sexy girl at the club or whatever. But I made that choice very early in my career, though. I never, even when I was in my 20s, I didn't really wanted to play that. And maybe that's part of why I cut my hair, and I wanted to have a different look, and I wanted to really portray the Latina that was more interesting, not just all of the Latinas the way the media portray us, right? And I think that also comes along with the values of elevating our culture. And to me, that's so key. It's so important because we elevate our culture in every event that we do, in every lesson that we teach, in everything that we do, everything that we say. And that to me is a huge role. And I take that very seriously because I do want Latino artists, women artists, to be taken seriously. So for the times I work with musicians or things like that, and if I know that some of them are running late, I'm like, please don't do that. Don't let people think that Latinos are always late. Please don't do. I'm always educating artists too because I feel like we have a huge responsibility to continue again to elevate our culture.
I love what you just said, especially with the intentionality behind everything that goes into the work that you do. Like you said, the punctuality, how you present yourself. It hasn't been too long. I mean, it's been maximum 4 years, that I've known of your existence since I've moved here to New York. But what I can say is that your branding is consistent across the board. What you present is super classy, very community forward, familiar. And so talk about the thought process as well as you were, thinking of all of that subconsciously and consciously in terms of the impact of all of those aspects.
Yes. Surround yourself with great people. And I am very grateful to a lot of friends that have given me advice, on that, talking about branding. And when you go to acting school, one of the first things that your acting teacher tells you is learn to describe yourself in a few words. Maybe you are a Volvo, or you're a Mercedes car, or you are, or you are this movie versus that movie. How do you describe yourself, right, as an artist, so
I
that
wanna hear
people
your
can
answer to
understand?
that.
Well, I'm always changing, and that's the beauty of it, right? Because I want to be a convertible. You know what I mean? Like
A
I love.
transformer.
Right. And how do you want people to perceive you as an artist? And how do you surround yourself with great artists that also can help you with your costumes, can help you with your vision, can help you with the narrative on your website, your social media? Like, how do you supposed to look like? What are you trying to portray? Do you really want to get that personal? Maybe for some people works. For me, it has always been such a challenge to get too personal because I feel like I need that for myself, and I want to focus on my work. I want to focus on the things that I want to do for change, not so much on like, oh, poor me, or I don't want to use my platforms to complain or any of that. I'd rather use it to elevate,
Yes.
right? But going back to really having friends that are designers and things like that, because when you're starting in the business, you don't have a lot of money. So you have to learn to borrow. You need to learn to do collaborations with people, and photographers work with dancers, fashion designers with actors, and just to collaborate so you can help each other grow and really, again, brand yourself and learn to find what best describes you, really, so that you can grow as an artist.
Of course.
Yeah.
Something that I'm noticing a theme here is versatility, right? You not wanting to just do dance, but also act and sing and voiceover. And also very important when it comes to the roles that you play and the representation, because it very much matters. And I think our society struggles a little bit with accepting people like you, people like me, who can do and want to do many things.
Yes.
And don't want to be put in a box.
Right.
Porque si eres Latina, eres mamá, you're a performer, you're like, there's so many things, and it's so important. I also think too, as an example for your kids and for younger generations and for even your generation, to see that you can do it all, maybe not easily, definitely not easily, but it is possible, and it is important when it comes to setting that example.
Yes, it is. It is very important to find what suits you and the things that you can do best, because again, you can try to, and I have friends that are artists that are they want to do just one thing, right? And I'm like, well, listen, you can do several things, I feel like salsa chose me. I wasn't looking to get into the salsa business and really, I felt chosen by salsa as one of I feel like I'm a salsa ambassador in New York.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't my idea, but I felt like it was a wonderful synergy, and I'm glad it happened because I also fell in love with salsa. So it was a mutual, connection.
So tell us the origin story. How did that happen?
How did that happen? I love to tell this story because I was in New York, 1995. And I had a little fake ID that my cousin helped me get. And I went to the Copacabana back on 57th Street on a Tuesday because I was told that that was the dancers' night. And Tito Puente was playing.
Icónico.
And I got to tell you, I walked into that room. It was like the movie Mambo Kings, the palm trees, the elegance, people dressed to the nines, the cars, the limos outside. It was very impressive. So I'm there taking all the scene in, and there's Tito Puente playing the timbales and connecting with the dancers, the energy. I was like, wow, what is this? Mm-hmm. And that was how I fell in love with really, that's the mambo, that's the New York salsa. Mm-hmm. Because coming from Peru, we are salseros. We have salsódromos. People love Colombian salsa, Cuban salsa. But it's a different sound. Like the mambo, the big orchestra sound is very rich, really, incorporates the Latin jazz fusion with the big orchestra, the Caribbean rhythm. So it's very full. And I just loved it. It was just the night that I was like, wow, this is so incredible. So incredible.
I love it. And from entering La Copacabana, right, to now spearheading all of these events, how did that happen? Like,
oh, God.
You said it wasn't your idea, salsa found you, so tell us, how did it find you?
Yeah, well, from there on, I was sponsored by Arthur Murray, so they were my first job, and this is when I started to do ballroom dancing and Latin dancing, of course, and started learning and training in Latin dancing. I did it competitively, so I used to go to the competitions. And that's when I really also fell in love with just Latin culture and accepting the fact that I wasn't going to be this skinny ballerina, but that I had curves, that I am different, that I am unique, that I am sexy. So it was a great time for me to also evolve from the dancer, because ballet dancers are very neutral. Like you may dress with a tutu and everything, but you're not allowed to, to be coqueta or anything like that unless you're playing Don Quixote or something specific. But most ballet dancers are very, rigid. And I felt like ballroom dancing really allowed me to be more myself and to be, exotic and be more than just a dancer. And that was a wonderful thing that happened for me when I got into the ballroom dancing world. I learned so much about my body, what I could do, and very exciting times, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how long have all of these salsa events been going on?
Since 95 that I came to New York. That was the huge, from ballerina to coming to New York and Latin explosion really in the 90s when Latinos were seen for the first time. I mean, I was part of that movement, for sure. So it's been, 30 years. Yeah.
Yo no lo puedo creer.
Exacto.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But also such important work, because to me, I'm 29, right? And so the reason I mention it is because my closeness to salsa comes directly from my parents and my family. But there is a lot of conversation in terms of what's going to happen with the genre and with younger generations. And we are seeing newer artists kind of incorporating it, and the genre is evolving. But to me, having all of these events is so exciting and it's natural. But I've been told that it hasn't always been this way. You know,
That's
there
right.
was a golden era, right? And this is kind of like the next best golden era
Yeah.
because yo siempre digo como que, especially during the summertime, there is a place to dance sunset de lunes a domingo.
Yeah.
Like, if you look hard enough, if you know someone like you, you know, there really is. But I don't think people really know the hard work that has gone into maintaining the movement, you know, and tell us about that.
Yeah.
What goes into it? What's the behind the scenes?
So I've been producing dance events, specifically, I think the biggest, because I was doing studio parties at the dance studios
fun.
that I used to run. I used to have live music, but that was sort of like my tryout time because I always love to party and, you know, anything to have a great party. But Latin Mondays really was the first baby, right? Like 19 years ago, I got involved with that party. And getting involved with that party was amazing because I learned so much from all the people that were a part of that team on curating music, great live music, DJs, bringing people together. And that's been happening for 19 years. So 19 years is a very long time for New York, years, especially because you bringing up the golden era of mambo, no? Los años dorados de los mambos. It's so true. It used to be super busy and there was live music in 3 bands on a Sunday. People will go and dance instead of watching TV. I mean, this is really when TV starts too, right? So it was a very different time. I think now we have, and actually after the pandemic, outdoor events have become really popular. There is more socials, there is more parties. Unfortunately, there is less live music because live music is more expensive to maintain. Yes. And that takes a lot of love for live music, I gotta tell you, because it's expensive, you know? It's really hard to keep it alive, but I think it's so important to keep it alive. My mom was like, take a vacation after we moved from Taj to the new Fifth and Mad for Latin Mondays. My mom was like, take a vacation. You've been doing Mondays for 19 years. And I'm like, Mom, I can't take a vacation. Every Monday, the party must go on. We can kill this party. This is like one of the few parties that has live music in New York City. This is New York City, the capital of salsa. How can we kill that live music? No, we cannot take chances.
I love the passion in which you use to talk about this because the love shines through. You know, it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not just about the party, it's about the community that you're building as a result. Whenever I go to your events, I see somewhat the same faces, you know? So these are the people who look forward to, just like you block off your Mondays, there are people, I'm sure, who block off every single Monday as well, and it's something that they look forward to, and it starts off their week. So there is a much bigger purpose than just la rumba, which there's nothing wrong with la rumba.
Right, absolutely.
Yo también soy
Absolutely,
rumbera,
yes.
But I do think that it's important for people to understand that it's not just we're partying, it's keeping a culture alive and sharing it and partaking in a communal environment, which, like you mentioned, especially after the pandemic, it's what people are craving more than ever. But simultaneously, it's also harder to maintain as a result.
Yes, absolutely. It's a cultural mission because the cultural aspect is not only for dancers, but it's also for people that want to experience the whole music, the live music, right? And they want to go to a Latin party because they know that it's different than going to just any party. People love Latin culture, and I think that's what makes it so relevant in New York because everybody loves a great Latin party in New York. So people think often, you know, that it's only Latinos. Not at all. It's like half are Latinos, yes, because we love to be there. But Chinos, Rusos, de todo. It's a wonderful mix. It's the melting pot of New York City. Everybody comes together to dance and to enjoy the music.
I love it. You have obviously performed in dancing environments and otherwise. You also teach. Talk about the differences in preparation when it comes to all of the things that you do. So, for example, do you have a go-to ritual of sorts when you prepare for hosting a live event versus a masterclass versus being on stage for a play like the one that you mentioned earlier?
Oh, wow. Well, I do love to... I've got into yoga. I've always done yoga and gym, and I work out, and I love to do breathing exercises. I love to stretch. I love to ground myself. So there's a lot of things that I do. I mean, if you're going to perform, you know, as an actor, I feel like it takes a little bit more because you have to warm up your voice, you have to warm up your body. But I feel also when you're doing an event, you have to warm up your body, you have to warm up your voice. It's just a different type of, warming up. One is a little bit more intense than the other. The things you eat, you want to stay healthy. You also have to sleep. Some of these events, finish late. So you're like, you need to sleep in the next day. So definitely Tuesday mornings, I am not available.
Out of commission.
I am
We're
sleeping.
resting.
Yes, because I have to recoup from Monday nights, So that's been my routine for the past 19 years. You have to sleep. You have to eat healthy. And there's a lot of things that I've been including into my routine and into my rituals that have allowed me, I think, to feel and to have the energy, to continue because, people get jaded. I don't ever want to get jaded or bored with what I'm doing. On the contrary, I need to be on top of my game.
Absolutely. As you look at your trajectory thus far, are there any highlights, whether it's a role that you played that maybe was challenging at first, but you were able to overcome, and as a result, it's a memory that stands out, or anything at all, anything that stands out, any stories, any anecdotes, maybe with an artist or something?
Wow, there's a lot of great stories. One of my favorite, because as we were talking about Latin jazz and how much I love it, I wasn't very into pop salsa. Like I didn't really like Mark Anthony, for example, right? And I know, I was like, it's so pop. It sounds like pop salsa. I can't stand it. And I used to work with the Today Show, so I used to often go there to perform with Patrick Swayze and all these amazing artists, Pitbull, and I got to do a concert with Mark Anthony.
Nice.
So there we are on national TV at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to start the concert. And there Mark Anthony arrives, and I hear over here with the conversation, I stayed up all night, because we had to be there so early. So we get on stage, he starts to sing, and I was wowed. I was so wowed that I had to become a huge fan because the guy is just so good. He didn't even sleep, and his voice live was incredible. I mean, what a voice.
Yes.
So really it was an amazing, I just love how I changed my point of view right away because I heard him live,
Okay, let's talk about selecting young talent. You mentioned that early on in terms of feeling a responsibility to share your platform with those who are eager, with those who have a talent that others could benefit from enjoying. What's your criteria there? What do you look for? Is there anyone that we should keep an eye on?
That's a very tough question too, because in many ways, I used to have a lot of agent friends that were in the business, right? And they would always talk about like how you really have to fall in love with the people you work with. And I think there's a lot of that natural chemistry that you have to have with the people that you work with. And back in the day when I ran dance studios, I used to do more training. Like I feel like I was more hand-to-hand and, one-on-one with a lot of the younger instructors. Now, everything moves so fast that it's a little harder. There's a lot of super talented people out there. I feel like so many of them really, the ones that have the most fun, the ones that are great dancers, that are also very natural teachers are people that you can easily work with, and you can make quick adjustments, you can suggest things, and they quickly adjust. There's this one girl that she came from Peru, and she was assisting my classes, and I wanted her to train her so that she can teach some of my classes. And one day I came to see her teach one of my classes, and she was teaching the class exactly the way I teach it. And I was like, wow, that's wonderful. So that's great because, I have a lot of experience. So there's a lot of things that are important to do in a class, especially a beginner class, because even though you may think, a beginner class is so easy, I feel like that's where we have the biggest responsibility to make sure that we communicate properly, that we, don't make it too hard, not too easy, but just enough for them to be captivated by salsa or any dance that they're learning and wanted to come back and do more. So I think that there is a process of, talking about things that we can improve, training, but it's not like the way I used to do it. I think I work a lot with more professionals, and it's rare, like this girl I was telling you that learns so fast, that you learn people that learn that fast. It's incredible. But again, you do find people in New York that, want to do it and they learn right away because they do want to excel here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned the importance of recognizing that you have to make it easy but not too easy, a little bit challenging but not too challenging, because I don't know if you've realized this, but sometimes you are people's first introduction to salsa. Maybe this is their first ever experience and they're coming out of their comfort zone, and holding that responsibility of making it a positive enough experience for them to want to keep trying or not be discouraged and feel welcomed.
It's nerve-wracking.
That's huge.
It's nerve-wracking. I love being a student, so I always love to compare myself. I went to take a drumming class because I love playing instruments, but I'm not good at it. The drumming class, I feel like such a beginner, and I'm like, oh my God, this is how my students feel. And it was so eye-opening for me to really understand how uncoordinated I feel about playing this drum and that drum in my feet. I'm like, okay, this is how my students feel. And really, you learn and you understand that it's hard for people to put themselves out there. Not everybody is so comfortable with their body, with their skin. So you want to make it comfortable for them, and you really want to make sure that you do the best job that you can, because it's a huge responsibility, all these people.
You've choreographed, right, across the board, for all different formats, including TV and film. What is the creative process behind these projects?
Oh, I don't get to do it as much anymore, but I used to love to choreograph because you are able to get creative. And choreographing for TV is incredible because the funny thing is that Mambo was danced in New York and was created at the Palladium Club in the 60s.
Oh my gosh.
And it was designed to be danced in a line so that the camera can always see the bodies moving, never the back. That's TV. So
Showbiz,
Palladium
baby.
style, exactly. So Palladium style was designed to be danced for a camera. And so is TV dancing. So everything has to be designed for the camera. Right? So when you know that, it really makes so much sense because everything has to move for the front. You cannot be circular, and it's really fun, and it's just everything happens in a very contained space. Everything has to happen fast. I think also outfits are so important because everything has to flow. I loved it. The last experience I had choreographing was for The Godfather of Harlem, which is a TV series.
Yes.
And we had some amazing, I think in the third season, we had many club scenes. And we did, it was so fun. We had amazing music from the 60s. It was so incredible to be part of that team because we discussed a lot of the music and a lot of the era, specifically for the 60s, how the music sounded, how the dancers moved. And for me, it was so eye-opening because I'm always investigating. And as a spokesperson, I've talked a lot about salsa and culture and New York, salsa and all of that. So for me, it was even more eye-opening to understand how the dancers back then carry themselves and how they dance. And really, the music of the 60s is incredible.
Let's use that experience as an example to talk through the creative process. So, okay, you're hired to choreograph for The Godfather of Harlem.
Yes.
Where do you start? Is it selecting the music? Is it selecting the dancers? How
you have a whole department. You have to talk to their art department to talk about the music, if they have the permit. They may not have it. They may want to change it on you last minute. And you're like, no, that doesn't sound 60s. So you have to also stand your grounds. For many of these things, it was it was a little tough because these people don't know. You are the expert. So, or you should be the expert because you cannot just be the choreographer without understanding, so much about that era. So, yes, so the music, it's the most important thing. And then, of course, the talent. You have to cast the best dancers that are going to be able to portray those personas, right? For TV, they always want beautiful people and sexy people, whatever, because that's how it is, right? But you also want to give the authenticity of that era. And the authenticity for that time is that it was very mixed. Like los judíos, the Jews, they were dancing, the Italians, the Latinos, the Black. I mean, everybody was dancing back then, So it's really important that you understand that. And then you have fun with it. If you have great talent, you don't have to do a lot because it's very contained and you give them. And for doing club scenes was so fun because every couple had to do their specific dance and look unique. Because again, it's a time of really exploration and it's a time of creativity within. Right? So you cannot impose. So there was a lot of great scenes. We'll have to find some of those scenes maybe to play them for this. Yes.
How much time did you have to do all of that?
For that project, it was, I think, it was a couple of months because I think we did like 4 or maybe 5 club scenes, and I think we shot in the whole summer. So we did a few different scenes with different directors, and that was another amazing process to work with directors like the amazing, I think his name is Navarro from Mexico. He's a super famous director. He did Pam's Labyrinth. So I was behind him, like his eyes. He was seeing things that no one else could see. So I decided to start walking behind him. And it was incredible. I learned so much from him. And he also had a wonderful eye for the dancers and choreographers. And we were really collaborating. It was really an amazing experience.
That's fascinating because it's so far removed from what people are normally exposed to. So I appreciate that insight. I'm curious to know, as you approach teaching in different settings, right? What do you enjoy most about sharing your knowledge with others?
Teaching like new students or in general?
Whether it's teaching a choreography in TV, whether it's teaching in a live event environment, which I know that many of them, if not all, start with a beginner class. So what is it that you like most about teaching?
I love variety because when I get invited, when Broadway Dance Center invites me to train their professional dancers or their international dancers, I love that. You go to the classroom and they're here for their first time in New York, from all over the world. They want to learn how to do the authentic mambo, or Latin dancing or partnering, and they're like so ready. I mean, I love that energy. So doing that, working on a set, working with beginners that are also scared, everything is so inspiring for me as a teacher, right? As a professional, everything is so special that I don't take any for granted, and I want to, and I love, and that's, I guess, why I continue to do different things, because I never want to feel like, oh my God, I can have more of this. Routine is hard. I think that routine is hard for anybody, right? I mean, I don't know how people work 9 to 5s on a desk. Some people do it, right? I could never do something like that because I'm so active. And I think I love that changing scenario and situations and working with different people.
I love it. Let's talk about the play, the tango play that you
Yes.
mentioned very, very early on in our conversation. Tell us more.
Oh, so exciting.
What's coming up? What does it entail?
It's exciting because the director, I work with her in a dance studio. She hired me to take over her role when she decided to take a break from a dance studio to have a family. And that was early in my career. And it's a workshop. So basically plays before they go off Broadway or on Broadway, depending which is the name really for the size of the house, right? They are a workshop. So you test it out, you do a small version of it, and you invite investors to make sure that you have the money and you have the resources to put it up. So this is a workshop. So it's the beginning. We did the reading. It went really well. I'm going to be playing the lead character as this woman who is addicted to tango, which is something that, we all, addiction is an addiction, whether it's alcohol, dancing, or anything. So there's a few characters that deal with addiction, and you are also, it's a behind the scenes, or is the behind a show. So it's a very interesting concept in which you will see the behind the scenes when they come out of stage, and there's a lot happening within the show, within a show. Yeah. So I'll be doing the workshop in the middle of September, and we hope that, it gets some interest, that we get investors, of course, and great artists. I mean, so far I'm going to be connecting with a lot of amazing artists that I know. So I'm super excited to be working with them. And and really happy to be back doing something like this. It's been a while.
Oh
for
my
me.
gosh,
Yes.
that is so exciting. When it comes to that type of setting, right, whether it's a workshop, whether it's Broadway, off-Broadway, similar nonetheless in terms of what it entails, the rehearsals, the shows, what would you say is the biggest challenge of that type of dynamic?
Definitely, I'm very scared about doing a show like this. Like if this show gets picked up and goes into a house, I don't know if I could do a long run, right? Because again, I'm like, I would love to perform for a short period of time, but I can imagine, and I know so many dancers that have done Phantom of the Opera for 10 years. Oh people that really spend a lot of time doing shows, like 7, 8 shows a week. that's nerve-wracking. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do something like that. I have my kids, I have my other events. I want to be available to do Latin Mondays. I want to be able to do it all. And this is really time consuming as a performer. Right? So it will be very challenging for me. And I don't know if I could do it exclusively. I think I would have to share, if I continue to stay with the production, I would have to have someone.
Like an understudy or something.
Yes, an understudy or something. Yeah.
So would you say, because I can't help but notice that maybe one of the biggest challenges in general that you've had to deal with throughout your career is picking and choosing so that you maintain versatility and you can do a little bit of everything, but simultaneously cater to your changing priorities. Your priorities, as I'm sure you can agree, and you've mentioned earlier, prior to your kids, you had different priorities. Now they are up top, So would you say that's a challenge?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge, but it's always been a challenge because as a performer, right, when you are in your 20s and you are dancing ballet and you have a contract, when the contract finishes, you don't have a job. You have to start from zero, right? So having the opportunity for me back then to go from a dance production to going into teaching or going into competing or performing or doing something else, it allowed me to keep busy. So yes, as much as it's nerve-wracking, I think the nerve-wrackingness really comes off from the fact that you want to survive and you continue to be working, right? Otherwise, how would you make it happen, right? Living in New York, it's so expensive. It always has been. So you had to really make sure that you were always going from one project to another. And that as a performer, it's almost impossible because, it's really hard unless you're doing one show, like I said, for so many years, right? It's very unheard of.
What about everything that you do would people be surprised to know? Whether it's the preparation, whether it's the amount of years that you have to dedicate to it to truly master a skill, anything that maybe you haven't shared publicly before that people would be surprised to know.
Well, I think that my hardest years are already past because the work that goes being a ballerina, that's just intense. You are dancing 7 days a week. You are not allowed to eat much. You have to stay very skinny. That's why I had anorexia. That's why I broke my leg, because I didn't have fat in my body, right, to sustain the amount of training. And you're training so hard. You train from 9 a.m. until 4. You're dancing point shoes. You're bleeding. It's like the training as a ballerina is very hardcore. And I'm glad I retired when I was 21 because it was very intense. And I have a lot of respect for my friends that still do it. But other than that, I think any performer that takes the performing arts to the next level is completely in the same boat, because when I was competing in ballroom dancing, it was always also intense. You had to have so much stamina to do the rounds. You cannot get tired, so you have to go to the gym. So aside from coaching, which is so expensive, and rehearsing, you have to go to the gym, run, make sure you're in, you never want to look tired, you cannot get tired. So everything is really athlete, it's athlete level when you're performing. And I think dancers really are not, they don't get the merit they deserve because dancers work really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, like you said, it is very important to talk about those things because we see on the stage, right? And it's fun and glitz and glamour, but I don't think the audience really
they make it look so easy.
Yes, and that's part of the training, like you said.
It's all
in order
about
to
training.
Not look tired,
oh yeah, you're
just
training 7 days a week. You have no parties. I didn't have a boyfriend growing up. I didn't have friends. I had to sleep. I had to stay focused on the goal. You don't have time to relax.
Would you change anything about your past?
No, you wouldn't, because I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do it again. I'm exhausted yet thinking about it, But it was also, in my case, it was very meant to be. My parents, one of the reasons I came to the United States was because my parents were in politics. My dad wrote against the government, the only newspaper writing against the government in Peru.
So he was a
and my
journalist.
mother was a professor at the very, also opposition from the government back in the 80s, 90s. And they used to throw bombs in our house. It was a very terrible situation. So they wanted me to be outside of Peru. And I'm glad I did. I think it was more like again, it was the circumstance for me. I had to do it, and I'm glad I did, but it wasn't by choice. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Las cosas de la vida. I always say, like you said, it's meant to be, and it's not always easy, and it's not how you predicted, but it's how it's meant to be at the end of the day. Okay, so you mentioned this tango play coming up. Is there anything else coming up that you're particularly excited about?
What else is coming up? No, just a lot of Hispanic Heritage Month events. Yes. That's the thing for us now. It's wonderful that companies, again, want to really include, and they want their workers and, co-workers to mingle and to really get a little feel of what is to be Hispanic and to enjoy our culture, really.
Okay, let's manifest a little bit. Let's talk pie in the sky. The sky is the limit, a dream that you have. You've done so much already, but I'm sure that there's something that you haven't quite gotten a chance to do, that if there were no restraints, time restraints or otherwise, what is it? What would that be?
I think a movie will be realistic. I think it's been a while since I've done film. Okay. A movie will be a lot of fun. And movie sets, unfortunately or fortunately, it's a much shorter commitment, right, than a play. A play is months. In a movie, you're in and out, especially, I don't need to play the lead. I just want to do something interesting, something that really, again, represent us Latinos, right? Like play a producer or play
a lawyer, a doctor,
right,
like
something interesting that could be challenging, and it could be, again, Latina outside the box, right? So I would love to manifest that. That would be really fun. I love movie sets because everything moves fast, and it's really and it also remains forever, right? You will see that movie. Everybody will see that movie forever. So it stays in history.
Yeah. Is there an artist that you haven't gotten a chance to work with yet that you would hope to do so at some point, either soon or in the longer term future?
Interesting. Oh, wow. I haven't thought about that. I've always admired artists that have crossed over from the dancing, the singing, the acting. Someone like Baryshnikov, it used to be I adore the man. I saw him dance, and I trained with him in the summer of '96, I think. And, again, talk about reinventing himself. He has his art center, done TVs, movie, that to me, again, were amazing role models that if I look back, really, I'm like, oh, yeah, Liza Minnelli, what an amazing career, right? Like real artists. And I say that because they've proven themselves on stage to do amazing things and to be able to do TV and film, which it can always be tweaked, so you don't have to be that great to do, right? But it's on stage that you really prove yourself that you're an amazing artist. So these are amazing role models, the old school ones.
Okay. Let's talk about your production company. You said that it's one of the newer things that you're dedicating your time to.
Yes.
So what's the vision there? Tell us more.
And that's something also that I am, and I didn't put it out there on the dream because it is a work in progress. But certainly Talia Productions will have to expand and will have to grow because we are doing so many more events, and we have so much. There is such a need for amazing teachers, amazing dancers, DJs, bands to be a part of this production company and to continue to do things not only in New York, but outside of New York City. So I look forward to also being able to work on my company and have time to expand and work with more, people that want to help me develop, and take it to the next level.
When people attend your events or when they hear your name, what do you want them to correlate that to? Almost like a legacy of sorts.
Yes. Well, definitely to have a wonderful time. Yes. To really go, wow, I didn't expect to have a great time on the dance floor. I didn't expect to see people having so much fun. I think that's such an important component because we live in such a sad world, and this is, and I say it like that because I've been having to skip the news, skip the radio. I am having a very hard time connecting with reality. And I feel like I've been choosing for the past months to be in my bubble, because every time I listen to the news or to what's happening in this country, what's happening in the world with the wars and everything, I just can find myself getting into this depression and just wanting to cry. So I can only imagine for people that don't live in my bubble, how do they feel? I mean, how depressing is that? you know, and it's such escape. I think the arts provide us really a soul and a place for people to feel that they can release that anxiety that comes from the news, and they can for a moment escape and be in this bubble, right? And enjoy themselves and just bring some inner peace, some joy to, like I said, a crazy world we live in.
Yeah. I'd love to know what drives and motivates you, because you've consistently mentioned evolving and reinventing, right? Do you ever feel a pressure to, what's next? Ay, ya hice tal vaina, ¿cómo la hago diferente?
Yeah, that's a huge subject because, you know, it's often, you don't want to, I look at a lot of artists and, you know, nowadays I think it's a little easier to get older, right? It's okay for a lot of women to put themselves out there with their gray hair or whatever.
I have gray hairs,
right,
proudly.
without Botox. So I feel like the pressure is coming down,
Yeah.
right? But as females aging, we have that weight, right? That we're supposed to stay looking healthy and looking wrinkle-free for our whole lives. So there's a lot of pressure. Reinventing for me does feel to evolve. And I definitely want to evolve in a very graceful way. Natural would be great. You know, I'd love to embrace the beauty of aging and becoming a woman, a real woman. But also reinventing and continue to provide tools and to continue to, es como que sembrando y cosechando, no más, giving more to the new generations. I think I have a huge responsibility as someone who has been here for so long and understands the business very well. I want to help other artists develop. And I don't know, maybe Talia Productions will have an agency one day that can help artists with that, because agents nowadays are very separated to the clients. They don't work together like back in the day. You had agents that were with you at all times. Now it's not like that. So I don't know. That's a huge undertaking, but you know, I do feel like I want to evolve and I want to give back, because that's a huge part of giving back is everything. You know, I'm grateful for all the people that helped me in the beginning of my career. So I feel like I have to give back. Yeah. And that's just great karma and how the world should operate.
And also recognizing that nobody gets to where they are by themselves, you know, and it's little grains of sand along the way that people kind of contribute to your journey that ultimately help everything, you know, every aspect.
Yes.
I want to end on a personal note. You mentioned being a proud mom, and you're such a public-facing individual, but through your work, or aside from your work, what message do you pass along to your kids? To what extent do they know about the work that you do? Do you guys dance at home? Like, how do you take what you do with the public and make it unique in the family aspect?
Yes, I love that. I bring my kids to my events all the time.
Really?
I love, my kids are a little bit more on the shy side. When I was their age, I was dancing like a maniac, and I was my kids are not like that. My oldest loves to be at my big events. Like, the bigger the event, the better.
How old are they?
He is 9 now.
Okay.
And he's gone to Broadway many times. We've seen plays, and he can sit to a play for 3 hours. I mean, it's incredible. I just took my daughter also to see my friend at Hell's Kitchen. She loved it. So to me, it's so important that my kids see what I'm passionate about, what I love, to give them the world and to share with them the performing arts world, and everything that I do is so special, especially because we're in New York. You know, I can't keep them in their little bubble of their, you know, friends, which I think is great for them too. But I remember growing up with my mom taking me everywhere with her. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence, and maybe really it helped me with who I am. And I feel like, to me, when I'm able to share these moments with my kids, it really makes it very special.
Yeah, I'm not a mother myself yet. I hope to be one day. But I always ask parents if they feel like experiencing what they love with their kids is almost like rediscovering it through a different lens. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. Because when you see your daughter watching her first Broadway show and she's just so enchanted, you know, you also start to see it from the same place. And again, how many I've seen, I don't know how many Broadway shows, but it's like that freshness. Kids really teach you every day how to look at the world. And I love sharing those moments with them. It really, really is amazing.
Beautiful.
Yes.
To end us off, is there a message for anyone that's listening that you want them to make sure they hear, whether it's an invitation to come to your events, or maybe there's someone out there that is afraid to take that leap towards their dream, whatever that is? What would you say to them?
Anything is possible. Anything is possible, really, because this is New York City. It's the capital of the world. It's its own world, really. I feel like New York is so different than anywhere else in the world. And here, really, dreams can happen. I'm an optimist. I really feel like if you apply yourself and if you try really hard and you surround yourself with people like you and people that have a great vision like yourself and focus, anything is possible. Just keep going at it and be patient, because your dream may have to shift. But it's okay. At the end, you'll feel more fulfilled to have continued to be open-minded and pursue, that grand. And again, we're always changing. So our dreams change and evolve like we do. So that's the beauty of it.
I love that. Amen. Well, thank you so much for sharing this time with me.
Thank you. This was so fun.
I look forward to seeing you at your events.
Thank you so much.
And on the stages, whichever next you are on.
For sure.
And thank you all for listening. Catch you next time.